Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages. Thank you for joining us for our February edition of our Economic Development Initiative. Again, my name is Damani Corbin, and I'm a board member here at Linden Fund USA, and this is
Ms. Onika Stellenberg. I'm the Director of Economic Development, and I'm based at LFU Guyana Inc. in Linden, Guyana.
Again, thank you all for tuning in. We received some positive feedback from our January report. And if you did not tune in, we launched an economic development initiative inside of LFU USA. And this is certainly an initiative to really focus our efforts on the economic development of Linden and Region 10. And today we really want to focus on two areas from a theoretical standpoint. One is ABCD, it's called asset-based community development. And two is the 7 pillars of a society. So I'll run you through those two theories and concepts that we've assessed with the board and were part of our strategy that we rolled out to the community prior to bringing Onika on board. And then we'll transition into Onika giving you an update of what she has been doing on the ground over the past month and some of the activities that are going to continue to push economic development initiatives in Linden and Region 10.
Great. It sounds like we're going to have a really amazing time today. I'm really looking forward to today's discussion to really let folks know some of the absolutely brilliant things happening in Linden. So please do not turn away from your screens for the next few minutes, because you truly do not want to miss any part of what we're going to be talking about today.
Indeed. Before we get in, again, I introduced myself, but I wanted to just shine a bit spotlight on the leadership of Linden Fund and the rest of the board. On the screen, you have our executive committee. We have our chair, Paula Walcott Quinton, just a stellar individual, been really pushing forward the efforts of LFU over the past number of years. She was part of the team that recruited me onto the board and really sold me the vision of what they've been doing, some of the vision that they have for the future, and just the humility to really encourage younger individuals to step up, utilize their voice, and give them a platform. So really thankful for our chair for providing this opportunity for me to come in and giving me the flexibility to work through this initiative with obviously the support of the board. Next, we have Keith Semple. He's our vice chair, and Keith is very active in a number of organizations within Linden, sitting on the board of a few different organizations, and he actually splits time between New Jersey and Guyana. So you'll see him on both shores, bouncing back and forth, and really he's really the face, and he has been the face in Guyana, and he continues to be the face of the organization from an on the ground perspective. Moving on, we have Sarah Lynn Wright, who's our treasurer. She makes sure that all the T's are crossed and all the I's are dotted. Really judicious in the work that she's completing. And Shauna Wright is the secretary, and she certainly makes sure that we're all organized and is really touching all aspects of Linden Fund USA as well as LFU Guyana Inc. Moving on to the other members of our board, we have Michael Campbell, who's really leading the initiative from a New Jersey perspective. Again, as we stated before, in New York, Guyanese are the 5th largest ethnic group, but that also spills over into New Jersey, and there's a huge constituency in New Jersey, and Michael's at the helm of that. But he actually partners very closely with Ms. Joan Casey, who is the recent board director covering the New York area. So she's, again, working really hard on, corralling and coming in and taking over with her vision for what the organization is going to do in the territory. Moving on to Dr. Francine Brotherson, she's really been a stellar and a stalwart within the community, and she has a legacy of the educational forums, the spelling bees, a lot of the educational content that you have seen out of LFU over the years, has been under her helm. Gail Christopher Henry, another board director who's just stellar across the board. Really, folks know her. She's very active across the board. To round it off myself, we have Ernest Joseph and George Paris. both really active and really concerned, really helping out on a lot of things on the back end. Folks don't understand the amount of work that is necessary from an operational perspective that comes on the back end to really see the fruits that comes forward with the labor that's being toiled by our board. So just really want to highlight the efforts of the board before we move in. But I wanted to now move over to A, B, C, D. Again, I don't want to, it's not best practice to read, the slides on a PowerPoint presentation. I certainly wouldn't advise any of my students to do so. However, I think it's necessary in that this definition really sums up what is asset-based community development. So asset-based community development is an approach to sustainable community-driven development. Beyond the mobilization of a particular community, it is concerned with how to link micro assets to macro environment. Asset-based community development premise is that communities can drive development processes themselves by identifying and mobilizing existing but often unrecognized assets, thereby responding to the challenges and creating local social improvement and economic development. So I've been kind of looking at this approach for a long time. And what I would encourage anyone who is interacting with the organization, interacting with our group, come to us with an asset-based mindset. It's easy for people to point out what's wrong. What we're looking for folks to do is take a protagonist approach, look at the qualities, the assets, the positive features of the community, which there's a number of things that you can focus on, and use those things to develop the strategy of what can happen moving forward. So for example, I know that the Blue Lakes are, some folks may have a sore point about it if you know the history of how the Blue Lakes came to be. But from a asset-based mindset, one needs to take in the history and think about how one can utilize what exists for the development of the community. And as you've seen as of late, there's been a ton of development of the Blue Lakes and just water in general. So I'll turn it over to Onika. I know Onika pointed out, we did a survey just asking, a number of the board members, what would they, think are the assets of Linden. And what was consistent across the board was 1, water, 2, the geography, and 3, the people and the culture. So Onika, tell us a little bit why you selected or why you think water is, a key asset of Linden in Region 10.
Thank you so much, Damani. I do not believe that in any measure, this would come as a surprise to persons watching. Region 10 is the only region in Ghana that has all 3 major rivers running through the region. So we have an abundance of water. Our water table is very high. Persons know of the Kora Creek, and they know of all of these other creeks, the Karakara Creek that they may go to from time to time. We are also the only region and the only place in Guyana that has blue water and white sandy beaches. So the things that persons would have to travel overseas for, they can get it right here in Region 10. Next, when we come to the geography, Linden is Region 10 rather, is uniquely placed in that we have low rolling hills. So it's not the mountains that you'd find in the interior, but because of the topography, flooding is not something that we experience. We know that the coast of Guyana is beneath sea level, but development in Region 10 does not need to contend with sea level rise because of our topography. This offers a unique opportunity, not just for the way we build, but also for things like ATV tours, dirt bike racing, and all of these other things that you may see on TV that you want to experience. Region 10 is a place that these things can happen, and it's one of the first places that persons think about when they think of white sandy hills, when they think of, oh, we want to take a trek, we want to go hiking. Region 10 is the place for that. And you can see the map that, so uniquely shows we have the Essequibo, Berbice, and Demerara River running through. Persons know of the Rockstone Fish Festival. And that just takes us into a little of the people and the culture. So when you think of fishing, when you think of fish festivals, Linden is a place for it. But outside of that, Linden is also known for our amazing athleticism. So we have excellent football clubs. But outside of football, when you look at track and field, Region 10 is the region that comes out #1 in Guyana year upon year, looking at coming from the school level and just the number of athletes that come out of the region. So we have several assets that can be used as a region that we can use now to develop. And I know Damani would take us into how this links to 7 pillars of society and how we can use our assets to develop our region.
Thank you, Onika. Much appreciated. Much appreciated. So moving into the 7 pillars of society, this is another philosophy that which is grounded on, if you look at any successful society from the beginning of time to now, there's 7 key areas that is consistent in those successful societies. So as an approach, this was part of my presentation and my plea to the board in terms of the approach that we should take with LFU moving forward. So anything that we're doing is from a purview of these 7 pillars. Again, we're taking an academic approach, we're taking theory, and we're really trying to put it into application. So the 7 pillars are family, church or religion, education, government, business, media, art, sports, and entertainment. When we think about economic development, the activities that are going to happen or transpire across the board are going to be cross-cutting, meaning that they're going to affect a number of these different areas. But one, again, from a strategy perspective, needs to keep in mind these 7 key areas and the effect of a potential initiative or program that one puts forward, how it then affects the other. So again, this is an approach that we're taking. There's a saying that strong men build strong families, and strong families build strong communities, and strong communities build strong nations. So again, one can say, like, let's start with initiative for the young men, and the young men are going to be strong, that we're going to build strong families. But in order for the young men to think about their families, there needs to be, in my opinion, a strong religious base for them to have the moral compass to understand the value of marriage, to understand the value that's rooted in family, to be able to then continue to build that family. Once that family is built, education is necessary for them to continue to progress through society. Government needs to be in place so that the systems, the processes are in place so these things can flow accordingly. When we're talking about building the community, we know that small business is the foundation for any community to thrive, right? For our money to be staying within our community needs to ensure that things are around, right? If I jump down to art, sports, and entertainment, it's a huge part of family, because outside of one working, one needs to have an environment, and the culture needs to be strong to, one, keep the nation and keep the local economy, keep the local industry moving along nicely. So art, sports, entertainment is a key feature in this life cycle of the society. When one leaves education, or one leaves school, or formal school for that matter, there needs to be a business environment that's thriving across the board, so that one can appropriately provide goods and services to their family and to the community. And lastly, the one that I didn't hit on is media, and really that spawns the communication. We think about how communication is disseminated, whether through the government or through the way that it's communicated person to person. That is a key method that keeps the community and a society, again, together and thriving. We're in an age of social media, and one needs to adapt to the norms of what is happening today. But in doing so, one just, again, bears in mind these key areas in their strategy for whatever it is that they're putting forward. And this is something that, again, we as the LFU board took time to look at the initiatives that we've been putting forward over the past 21 years. We looked at where we wanted to get through in the future. There's been numerous documents and vision statements that has been produced locally. We ingested, we took a look at them, and we're again coming alongside things that have already been communicated by the government, by the RDC, by the Mayor and Town Council, and we're developing our strategy alongside the institutions and the people on the ground that already exist, and just trying to complement the overall development of the region. And those that's my time. I hopefully, Onika, I stay within my time allotted, and it's over to you.
You did brilliantly, Damani. Thank you so much, for really setting that foundation so persons understand, how we're engaging with people and how our projects would be developed and the areas that our projects should look at. Because some persons might hear Linden Fund USA and they might think, oh, I could just come here to get cash, and then I get cash and then I go. But we're looking at sustainable economic development. And when we're thinking of that, before we craft a vision, before we craft a list of activities or things to do, Linden Fund USA is not going to come to usurp the role of any agency or any organization. And we're not going to come into the community to just roll out a plan. We have to know what's happening on the ground and where we can complement the efforts of the main stakeholders, the persons who are already pushing the envelope and who are already leading in that regard. So over the last 2 months, we have commenced meeting with these individuals. This list is by no means complete, but so far we've met with the Mayor and Town Council. We're now a co-op member of the Economic Development Committee, and we're looking to join or enter into an MOU with them to provide technical and substantive support to the Mayor and Town Council to develop projects. I know we're working on a project with them related to solid waste disposal right now, helping to develop that proposal. We've met with the Regional Democratic Council, and they too have an economic development committee that we're hoping to support. The Region 10 Tourism Committee. Damani mentioned arts and entertainment, because it plays a big part in how families engage in society and how communities engage. So we have met with the Youth in Promotion Drama Group to understand what they're doing, to understand where deficiencies lie and how we could perhaps support the Linden Enterprise Network, because money answered all things, as we know, and money would be required to really speak to some of the projects that folks have coming up. Linden Fund Trust, we have a partnership coming up with them that I'll speak on a little bit more later down. Elite Kayaking and Nature Tours is one of the groups that we've met with, and they're doing some really phenomenal stuff with the Blue Lake. The Agricultural and Regional Development Department, we have also met and worked with them. The Linden Technical Institute, and if you remember our previous presentation, we spoke of workforce development, and the Linden Technical Institute would be a key partner in this, in ensuring that persons who are going into the workforce, whatever area they're going in, they're skilled, they're qualified and recognized internationally for whatever skills it is that they have. So we're going to work along with LTI to match and place some of the students who are coming out into internships with other agencies. We've had consultations with the Mayor of Purcellville and GWI Incorporated, looking to bring support to the country. So it's not just the internal stakeholders, it's connecting those investors and interested bodies outside of Guyana to Linden. So in all of these engagements, we have been able to collate a list of activities and events and upcoming projects and ongoing projects that are happening in Region 10. Many times persons in the diaspora may reach out to Linden Fund USA because they're interested in what's happening in Region 10, or they want to invest, but sometimes they're not sure where to go. Linden Fund USA would be happy to be that gatekeeper for you, because we will meet with the people, and as I said before, we will do the work for you and just guide you in the right direction. So some of the things that are happening. First up, we have the launch of the Best of Linden inaugural magazine, and this was done by the Linden Fund Trust. It's only $1,500 a copy, so be sure that you get your copy, Lindeners. There's a road to the Berbice River that's already under construction from Millie's Hideout. Right now, the Tourism Committee is doing an audit of the tourism sites to see what needs to be done to develop the resources and the assets that we have as a community right now. There has been a resuscitation of the monthly market days on the Wisma Shore. The RDC is presently building a new admin building. In terms of arts and entertainment, we have production of a local movie. Lindeners are talented people, and the Youths in Promotion Drama Group right now, they're recording a movie that's being shot in Linden using Lindeners that will be distributed not only in Linden, but around Guyana. There's also a proposal for the rehabilitation and upgrade of the Christianburg water wheel, not just to paint it and put up a sign, but to have the entire community involved in how persons experience the water wheel, in doing tours around Christianburg, which is the first community that was developed in Linden. So, there's a lot of history there. And the final two things we have in terms of activities are launch of the Visit Linden app and launch of the Regional Administrative Committee, which is meant to bring the major stakeholders together so that they can share their plan, so that we have sustainable development across the region. So these activities are in no way mean comprehensive to say these are the only things that are happening, but persons want to know what's happening in Linden, how they can get involved. Linden Fund USA would be working with the stakeholders that we mentioned before to charter the path towards engagement with the diaspora, towards engagement with large companies that are here for oil, and even local companies. So how are we going to engage with these institutions? As I mentioned before, we don't just want to say, here is $10 million, go forth and prosper. We want to ensure we have sustainable economic development in any venture that's being done. So we have a progression of support that we're going to provide to the stakeholders. First of all, through conversation, through research, we're going to identify potential viable economic projects. And these projects will cover a range of sectors, but they will hit the 7 pillars of society that Damani mentioned. And from these projects that are identified, we're going to work with the stakeholders, as we're doing right now with the Mayor and Town Council, to create project proposals, because we recognize that some institutions may not have the technical expertise or the capacity to develop project proposals. So Linden Fund USA would be supporting institutions to develop projects, project proposals rather, so they can access funding. Now, the third step is where the institution now needs to lead. So whilst for the first 2, LFU Guyana would be taking more of a leadership role, we're now going to be working with the agencies. We're going to help them identify sources of funding, whether it's Fortune 500 companies, whether it's Blacks on Wall Street, whether it's Exxon Mobil's or the Repsols or whomever. We're going to help them identify the funding, but they're going to be the ones that are actually going out to meet with these companies. So we're going to build their capacity and ensure they know how to go market their projects. When funding is secured, we're going to work with these institutions to then implement the projects that they have developed, whether it's just promoting the proposals or implementing the project. So this is how we envision that we're going to be supporting the major stakeholders in Linden. This is not the only set of things we're doing. Yes, we are also going to look at direct investment into small businesses. We're going to look at working with credit unions into bringing investor funding for businesses to access cheaper rates than they would if they were to go to other locations, because we know that access to financing is major for increasing your business, for employing more persons. But we want persons to know the main goal is to have cash circulated within Linden and among Lindeners, within Region 10 and among residents of Region 10, to have persons employed within the region. So we start with Linden first, and then we start with Region 10 first, rather, and then we work outwards. So whatever resources we need, we look for it in Region 10 first before we go elsewhere. So we're going to identify our assets within the region, and then we're going to work to develop them. So, after we have done all of that, one of the things that we have already identified is the connection of our waterfront to economic development. And with that, we now have an upcoming activity, which is an economic spotlight forum. And this will be held in the month of March on the 22nd, actually, and it will be in partnership with the Linden Fund Trust. And we're going to shine a spotlight on waterfront development and Wisma Shore development, or waterfront activity, and the Wisma Shore development. Many persons may not think of the Wisma Shore when they think of business or when they think of economic opportunities, but we're going to highlight upcoming projects that are being done that are ripe and ready for investment. We're going to show you how you can get the returns on your investment. We're going to identify the projects so you don't even need to think about it. We're just going to tell you these are the 10 projects that can be done, that are ready for execution. All you need to do is come to work, and we're going to help you to develop your project proposals, to access funding, so you do not need to do this alone. This Spotlight Forum will be done virtually, and it will be live streamed from our Facebook page. We are going to have other partners join us in this venture, but as we get closer to the date, we will release more information. So that's just a little bit about the work that we've done so far, the activities and the projects that are happening in Region 10 right now, and then an upcoming activity that's coming out of our initiative. Damani, is there anything that you'd like to say before we wrap up today's discussion?
No, I think that you did an amazing job of communicating what has happened on the ground, a little bit of an insight into where we're going. As we were speaking, I just reflect on what we covered in our January update of PhD, purchase, hire, and deposit, in ways that is going to create businesses and circulate money within the local economy. Again, this is what we're keeping at the forefront of our minds in everything that we're doing, ensuring that the rising tide lifts all ships. So thank you.
Definitely. Thank you so much. And I love that saying that you closed off with, that the rising tide lifts all ships. Because as the water rises, it's not just the large ships that will rise. It's the small boats, it's the rafts, it's everything that's in the water will come up as the water comes up. So we want Londoners to think of this and use this analogy, so that when we speak of economic development within Region 10, they understand that what we're doing would have cross-cutting benefits across the 7 pillars and across multiple sectors. So we're not only looking for one-off projects to be executed, but we're looking for impactful, sustainable economic initiatives that will surely drive development within the region. So I just want to say thank you so much for tuning in to our February edition of our catch-up. Damani, thank you so much for joining us. Should you need to contact us for any reason, if you want to get more information, if you want to find out about what's happening, where it's happening, if you want to partner with Linden Fund, if you want to invest, if you want to do anything in Linden, wherever you are, come to Linden Fund USA. We would be more than happy and delighted to be your partner in development. You can get us on LinkedIn, we're on YouTube, we're on Facebook. You just type in Linden Fund USA, you will find us. Send us a message, however easy it is for you to do so, or you can check out our website to see some of the work that we've done in the last 22 years. So it's www.lindenfund.org. If you'd like to reach out to either Damani or myself, you can just send us an email and we would respond promptly. So it's our names. So for me, it's onika.stellingberg@lindenfund.org. And for Damani, it's damani.corbin@lindenfund.org. So thank you once again for tuning in.